So the title has to be within the head of the document. So, all right. Now there's other stuff that can go in here, and as I said, we're going to do other stuff in there. It's where if you're going to use a style sheet, where you know, tell the browser where to find the style sheet. You know, quite a few other things that happen up in the head. This is stuff, think of it this way. What's in the head of the document is information for the browser. The browser's going to use it. No one else is going to see that information except for the title. That's the only exception. So humans are only going to see the title, and they're going to see it up there in the title bar. Any other information that's in the head is going to be used by the browser to do certain things with the page, to make it do all sorts of good stuff. But the person visiting the web page is never going to see that information. Anything you want them to see has got to be here, within the body. Okay? So here's what I want you to do. I'll show you a couple little things, and then I just want you to work on this and, you know, make this into your page. We're going to use a couple of tags here. If you want to think about it this way, it's not strictly speaking true, but we're going to call it a headline. And so my name in this particular thing is the most important thing on the page. So I'm going to call it a headline 1. So I'm going to wrap it in these H1 tags. All right, so let's just look at that and see what that does. Okay, we don't need that. Trying to do this without losing the demo, which is going to be, okay, here we go. Okay, so what did it do to what I wrapped with the H1 tag?
Made it look like a headline.
Yep. Can anybody be more specific? Can you be more specific? What did it do to it?
Bolded it.
It bolded it. It made it larger. Yep. And it made it on its own line. Exactly. So, and here's what an H tag is going to do. An H tag is going to, first of all, take whatever's between that opening and closing tag and put it in its own block. It's called a block level element. So it's going to make a block of it, which means it's going to put a space after it, or a carriage return after it, if that lingo works for you. Now, watch this. We'll just show you real quick. That's an H1. If we made it an H3, I'm just going to change that to an H3, save it, go back and reload this page. It's bold. It's a separate block, but it's smaller now. So H1 is the biggest, H2 is smaller, H3 is smaller. You could try this and see all the way down. But even though, like an H6 is actually quite small, if we do that, and look at what an H6 looks like, it's actually smaller than the default text, but it's still bold and it's still on its own line, because H tags create a block level element and they're going to bold it automatically. And later on, not that much later, but in a couple of weeks, we're going to learn how to control the size, control the color. You can control all that. So don't worry about maybe you don't like this font or you don't like that size. The reason to use H tags have a little bit to do with search engine optimization, because search engines also consider anything that's an H1, possibly an H2, to be important. Because basically we've designated them. We've said it's an H1, it's a headline. It's a, strictly speaking, it's a header. In HTML, H1 means header, not headline. But if you want to think about it, headline, that works fine. That's fine. So H1 on a page ought to be the most important information on the page. And then an H2 is sort of like a subhead. It's the next most important information. And then the basic text itself gets wrapped in a paragraph. So paragraph. Oh, by the way, before I change that, let's go back. And notice that if you look at the way I've got it typed here, all these things are separate lines, right? But when you look at it in the browser, it's all run together. Okay, so it's all, so HTML totally ignores just a return that you put in there. So if you want it to be a separate paragraph, you have to tell the browser using a tag that you want it to be a separate paragraph. So in this case, we're going to make this a paragraph. Open and closing p tag. We're going to make this a paragraph. Opening and closing p tag. And then I'm going to make all the rest of it a paragraph, and then we're going to change that later. But for now, I'm just going to make all the rest of it another paragraph. By the way, once you do one of these, now you can cut and paste, which makes it a lot easier. So I'm going to do Command C and take it down to the end here, and Command V to paste it. So this isn't totally the way I want it to be ultimately. I want it to be a little bit different, but this is going to work pretty well anyway. So now if I look at this in the browser, now you notice instead of it all being run together, here's a paragraph, and all the rest of it is in a single paragraph. Yes?
It's a stupid question, and this is live, but how do I get it to transmit what I've just done? Show up on the
Okay.
text editor.
No, well, in TextEdit or to show up in the browser?
In the browser.
Okay. No, that's not a stupid question at all. This is actually something that's going to trip you up, so I'll warn you about it ahead of time. When we're working on our web pages and websites here, we're working on the computer that's right next to you. This is called working locally. Nobody else can see it. It's not live on the web. So that you and I are the only people that are going to be able to see these. We do not, at this point, have a live web page that anybody can see on the internet. So there's good things and bad things about that. The problem that's going to crop up later on, and you'll see, and so you just have to learn to work with this, is that some things will work locally on your computer here that once you upload them to the internet, they won't work anymore, which becomes really frustrating. But they don't work because you goofed them up, and the browser is sending you a message that's basically saying you goofed there. You didn't mark it up properly. I don't know what you want me to do. Basically, that's what it's saying.
I think she's referencing how do you update your TextEdit and then refresh your screen.
Okay, so right. Okay, so that's what you. Okay, so there's two. Well, okay, but these are kind of connected because here's another thing that's going to happen. What should work is, so you make a change here. Here's how it ought to work. So I just added this. Let me just do this. I'm going to change a little bit. I'm going to put a break in here because I want to break after each one of these lines. So I'm going to copy that, paste it, paste it, paste it. Now, if I just do save, Command S, or if I go up here and do File Save. Yep. How's that? Okay. I just did Command S or saved. It should have updated that file. And now if I go to the browser and look at it, and I just hit refresh up here, it should change. And it did. Now, having said that, TextEdit is a little squirrely, and it doesn't always seem to accept your changes. So it's safer actually to go back to the original document that you're working on here and drag it back to the browser and reopen it. And if you find that you made a change and you click the refresh button and nothing has happened, it might make sense for you to take the document itself, drag it back to the browser, and reopen it as opposed to just hitting refresh.